Howdy, folks. Welcome back to my YouTube. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today I have for you another Outer Worlds character build video. Today I am going to cover the Juggernaut from Marvel Comics and the Warhammer 40K's Orcs. That's what this was inspired by. And it is a tanky build that uses two-handed melee weapons primarily for killing his opponents. But let's start off here with a bit of a background and we'll go from there. The Juggernaut was born and raised in an agricultural family. He spent most of his days working his family's farm. He was not known for being book smart, but was known for being as strong as an ox. He worked hard on the farm, but he knew at a very early age that he didn't want to be a farmer. The Juggernaut would barely graduate school, and he would enlist into the military. It would take 3 tries for him to pass the required test for enlistment. His time in the military was short-lived. He would make it through basic training, but it was noted he had multiple cases of insubordination during basic training. He was assigned to an infantry unit, and shortly thereafter would be subject to drunken disorderly charges and striking an officer. Finally, he was discharged from the military, but he would later join a mercenary unit. His mercenary unit was hired by the government to act as guards for the ship later named the Hope, and the Juggernaut was selected for the assignment. He would be placed in cryostasis for the Hope's launch, and 70 years later, the Juggernaut would be released from cryostasis by Dr. Wells. The Juggernaut is not one for taking orders. He is a bit insubordinate and hot-headed. He is not above lying or intimidating people into doing what he wants. He primarily intimidates, as he is a large, burly fellow that's pretty scary. He is willing to do just about any job for the right amount of pay. He sees his crew as assets to take jobs and make money. However, he tends to hang out and drink with Ellie, Nokia, and Felix. He values Nokia's combat skills and sees Felix as a young and strong and capable fighter. He also likes to talk to Felix about tossball. He sees Ellie as a skilled fighter and values her background as a pirate and sawbones. Now, all that being said, this build is around the idea that it could either side with Dr. Wells or the board. As with siding with Dr. Wells, he would decide that the government was not really a good fit for him, and that maybe things would be better off without the board. However, if he sides with the board, he would actually go with the route that they would actually make him very rich and wealthy, and that more work might come his way from the board doing mercenary work. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the skills here. Now, I put 3 points in body, 2 in dexterity. I actually dropped his intelligence a point, mostly for the laws, and I raised his temperament by 2 points for the healing that it gives. His aptitude is farmer, which gives an N-ray damage received 3%. For his skills, I chose melee and defense as his primary skills. And then skills to focus on, I would recommend two-handed melee, block, and intimidate. As secondary skills, I focused on handguns. I didn't want to take heavy weapons, even though the heavy weapons base skill was actually higher. But due to the amount of the fact that the character build is around using two-handed melee weapons, which are heavier weapons, and wearing heavy armor from head to toe, which is heavier armor, I also didn't want to stack in there heavy weapons as well. I did put points in. I do recommend putting some points in dodge. However, block is more likely what you're going to use, as this character is actually built around taking damage in. So you're not so worried about dodging hits, but if you got to dodge hits, it's there as an option. Also, I recommend lie, as it's part of the background of the character. And finally, I recommend medical, and that's because of the bonus healing that you get from the inhaler. Next, we'll cover the perks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you take a moment here and screenshot this so you know what perks I'm talking about. The perks in yellow are the perks I recommend. More or less, those are the perks that you're more or less going to need definitely to make this build work. And the red perks are perks I suggest. Those perks are perks that could work for the build pretty well. I found that they did work for the build. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back here to the footage so that way you have something to look at while I'm sitting here rambling about the perks and going over the perks. Now, the first perk I would recommend is Toughness. This is a tier 1 perk, and it increases the base health by 50%. And Resilience, which increases the base armor by 5, as well as Pack Mule, as it increases its carrying capability by 50 kg. I feel that's actually important because, once again, the character's built around wearing heavy armor. He's built around using heavier melee weapons, etc. Now, perks I would suggest, and these are actually almost required for the build, really, is Cheetah, which increases his sprint speed by 20%. And then Slow the World, which increases his max tactical time mode by 25%. And the max tactical time mode, the tactical time mode can actually be used to close in on opponents, as you're seeing me do here. And it can also be used once you get your melee skill high enough to do damaging status effects such as blind and other things like that. Also, it works too if you actually want to use a gun. There's just some things you really don't want to close with even with this build, such as Mega Mantiqueens. Now, for the tier 2 perks, I recommend Scanner, which gives bonus damage to headshot and weak spots by 20%. Pack of Pack Mules. That just doesn't seem right. But anyway, Pack of Pack Mules. Carry capability, bonus from companions is increased by 40 kg. Once again, heavy armor, heavy melee weapons. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. And then Harvester, which health restored per kill is increased by 15%. So that helps make him a little bit more tanky. Now, for the tier 2 suggested, I recommend the Reaper, which gives a tactical time mode restored per kill by increased by 25%. So that will help increase his tactical time mode faster so you can use it more often. However, this build's not necessarily built around using tactical time mode. And then finally, Speed Demon. Move speed during tactical time mode increased by 25%. That one I almost want to put in recommended, but like I said, once again, you really don't necessarily have to rely on the tactical time mode for this build, but it wouldn't be a bad idea either, especially when you start getting into fighting Mega Mantiqueens and things of that nature. That is really good at hand-to-hand combat as well. Now for tier 3, I pretty well only have 5 recommended for this build. The first one is Confidence. Your next attack after killing an enemy is a guaranteed critical hit. That's actually really good considering you're using some of the most powerful melee weapons in the game. The next one is Armor Master. Armor rating bonus increased by 10% and skill bonus increased by 100% from worn armor. It's a tanky build. You need that armor. You know, that's what's going to keep you alive longer. Armor and hit points is the primary focus here of this build, as well as dishing out very hard-hitting damage quickly. The next one is Revenge. Damage increased by 20% when affected by harmful combat effects. And that's all kinds of different effects. End rays is a part of that. Poison, burning, etc., etc. Broken bones. It's you know, so that's once again that's built around dishing out maximum amount of damage in a short period of time. Um, tit for tat. 15% of melee damage is returned as hit points. That's actually not bad. That's once again that helps make the build a bit more tanky and able to take more hits. And then finally, the last stand. Last stand damage increased by 30% when under 25% of your health. That's kind of like one of those of, okay, combat's been kind of going bad, need to kill some enemies quickly, maximize damage once again. So everything for this build is around basically hit points and maximizing your armor and maximizing your damage. Um, so yeah, there you go. There is the Juggernaut build for me. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the video and hopefully y'all will try out this build. Let me know how it goes for you. I actually found the build quite amusing because of the lower intelligence. There was a lot of different social interactions I was able to get from that, as well as this build kind of opens up to swing either way you want to uh, for the ending. Although I actually favor Dr. Wells for the end for this character, but it's you could go either way. I feel. But anyway, folks, thank you once again for watching the video. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you can know when the next Outer Worlds character build goes live. Thank you again for watching, and hopefully everyone has a very enjoyable week.